Dr. Shegun in. Good to have you. Good
Good
morning to you.
morning.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the program. I just want to confirm you can hear me and it's loud and it's clear. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, good morning. We can hear you loud and clear. So thank you once again for your time with us. Now, what is your what is your assessment of the agricultural sector in the country? Let's start from that point.
Sorry, I lost you for a bit. What is my assessment?
Yeah, I said, what is your assessment of the agricultural sector in the country?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the agricultural sector in Nigeria at the moment is I think that there's still very much to be desired of. Yes, we can see the intention. First, we see the intention of the president to do a lot of reforms in the agricultural sector, and I dare say it was one of his campaign promises, which was misconstrued by a lot of people and became jokes on the internet. I'm sure you must have heard the popular, is it for Agbado, is it for cassava, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. The president has been advocating that Nigerians need to embrace farming, that Nigerians need to look into investing in agribusiness. And yes, it's something that still has a lot to be desired of. And in fact, there was a report that came out 3 days ago that 40% of Nigeria's agri output is lost to post-harvest activities. And this is a huge number, a huge, huge number. If 40% of harvest is being lost, that means you can already see that um, it's going to, in turn, convert to disappointment for the farmers. If I go to farm and I lose that amount of harvest or I lose my harvest, chances of going back to farm the next farming season is very low. So you're having farmers discouraged to go back to farm. Then also you're looking at the issue of farmer and farm insecurity. Just some days ago, some farmers were killed in Niger State on their farms, and over 50 bags of maize, freshly harvested organic maize, was burnt on the farm. This is about 4 days ago
Mm.
in Niger State.
Yeah.
Also, we have in Enugu State,
Yeah.
rice farmer and yam farmers killed on their farms, and the
Mm.
pictures and the videos are all over the internet
Yeah.
with them. So when farmers begin to hear these things, and the farms are insecure, the farmers are insecure, we're losing in our post-harvest losses, that means we are going in the wrong direction in our agriculture. Signing an MOU with an international organization or with another country, if you ask me, my default position to any foreign initiative or foreign investment in a country, my default position is a no until I look at the contracts and the nitty-gritty, which is currently not available to us to we political commentators on agriculture. So yeah, so that's the state of the agriculture in Nigeria. The insecurity is bedeviling the sector. The post-harvest losses is also contributing significantly to losses on the farms.
Okay. So away from insecurity now, are there some internal factors that threatens food security in the country? Because we've had conversations about middlemen. I think the last time you were on the program, you brought that as well. Are there issues with distribution? Are there some other issues that contribute hugely, other than the harvest losses you pointed out now? So because now, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, there are other issues, definitely. There are other issues. I'll talk about one, for instance. Nigeria has 84 million arable hectares of land. And out of the 84 million arable hectares of land, only 1.4 million are irrigated. And irrigation ensures you have all year round farming. So when just 1.4 has irrigation, and you have 84 million arable land size, that means you still have a lot of potential to uncover in that particular sector. You know,
Okay.
also in the area of distribution, yes, distribution is a major problem due to poor road network that hinders transportation. You know, the poor road network would hinder transportation of farm produce from the farms to the markets, causing spoilage, raising costs, and reducing accessibility to consumers. So, with substantial post-harvest losses representing about 40% of our food produced in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
definitely our food security is challenged. And it underscores the importance of improved storage facilities, cold chains, and transportation network. Such infrastructure would reduce food spoilage and ensure better market access and strengthen the resilience of the food supply chains. So
Mm.
these are challenges, and these are other areas that affect the Nigerian. Also, you're looking at power. You know,
Mm.
we should start looking at the area of having solar and wind energy to power irrigation. Just last week, I was in a farm in southern Kaduna, a major farming region in large, large, large farm. I mean, you wouldn't see a single power cable pass through the farm, through the area for as far as your eyes can see. So, if such a farm is supposed to have a borehole or require power of some sort,
Yeah.
how are they going to do it? And this is where we now start looking at the solar and the wind energy to power irrigation and mechanized farming and even cold storage to reduce dependency on fossil fuel and contribute to sustainable food security. You see, these are things that Tanzania did.
Mm.
Tanzania as a country looked into the welfare of the farmers. Besides all of this, Tanzania also looked into the welfare of the farmers. Subsidized farming has done heavily in the United States. And of course, it resulted into a 128% increase in their farming. And right now, Tanzania is food sufficient and
Mm.
currently exporting food to other African countries. And some other parts of this, there's what you call food politics also. Food politics where countries are made to produce cash crops instead of staples, foods that they require. So when you are producing for export, that means you produce to sell,
Okay.
but what is required to service your country will be missing. And food politics is also a major challenge in the agri business. One other thing we should also look at are the oil spillage. In some of our oil in the oil-rich parts of the country, the oil spillage, the environmental pollution is also affecting food production and it's having devastating effects on the farmlands and the ecosystem.
Mm.
So I think I would stop here for now and take more questions from
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. But so now you've pointed out that it's a lot of issues in one. Like it's so many insecurity in the north, and then in the south, the oil spillage situation, and even the seasonal flooding. We get to see that whenever the dam is open, or the poor drainage that we're told repeatedly would lead to flood. But now I want to ask you because agri experts have come out repeatedly to talk about taking advantage of the dry season, which we are in right now or we are entering. So, would you want to expatiate on that? Taking advantage of the dry season to farm.
Yeah, there are crops that do well in the dry season. There are crops that do well. They don't require so much water. Yes, there are crops that we can and that do well in such times. And also there are irrigation. Irrigation is something that can also ensure that even during the dry season you have enough water to wet your farms and continue your farming. So yes, there are even other technologies in agriculture, such as the soilless farming,
Okay.
greenhouse farming, the aquaponics, and the rest of them. that farm under very controlled environments, you know, like in many parts of Mexico and even in Poland, you know, areas where the prevalent weather conditions are not very conducive for regular farming. You know, you have to create controlled environments to ensure that your farming
Yeah.
activities is not going to slow down even due to the weather. So that's the thing. That's it. So we can actually take advantage of the weather of the dry season, but nonetheless, I believe that there are low-hanging fruits that we as a nation need to explore. Lots and lots of low-hanging fruits that we can explore. We need to look back into our cultural policy, agricultural framework, and begin to identify these low-hanging fruits and take advantage of them. These low-hanging fruits will give us very quick returns than for us to begin looking at technologies that may take so much
So what are some of the
to
low hanging fruits you can identify?
some of the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah.
Oh, very easily. Let us first of all losses. That's our biggest problem.
Okay.
And of course, find that um, in no time, our agriculture will
Yeah.
be boosted. If
Mm.
we stop our post-harvest losses and we frown and we take very concise actions against the insecurities. I mean, we have lots and lots of security agencies. We have the NSCDC.
Yeah.
Recently, we saw that the president commissioned rangers, forest rangers, to also help provide security to the farmers. We have, there's so much, and there's also intelligence. We have our military. I mean, food is very important. If food is affected in a country, it can lead to a total collapse of civilization in no time. So if it requires military intervention, we go for it immediately. You
Mm.
know, and one other low-hanging fruits, two other low-hanging fruits that I can easily identify at this time is the promotion of regenerative agriculture. If
Okay.
we immediately begin enacting and enforcing policies that ban the use of agrochemicals, and that's toxic agrochemicals, and immediately also ban the use of unregenerative seeds, in other words, dead seeds, such as the GMO seeds that don't reproduce. If we can, those are policies. You
Okay,
really
so
don't need to
what
do
what
much
would be
to do
the
that.
alternative to the chemicals now? How do you keep the pest away? The chemicals are supposed to keep the pest away, right? Like pesticides.
Sorry, I can barely hear
I said,
you.
what would be the alternative to the chemicals?
Alternative to the chemicals.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is I like this question because I actually answered it yesterday in a conversation I was having with someone. What the chemicals are actually the alternative. What were we doing before the chemicals? I am aware that chemicals did not exist in farming until just maybe like the 19th or 20th century. So how did humanity get here without the chemicals? So when we begin to discuss alternatives, the chemicals are actually the alternatives. The GMOs are actually the alternatives. What were we doing before then? That is what we need to go back to. It's
Mm.
very clear. We have safe agronomical farm practices, the ones that we were taught in agric science in the 90s and in the 80s, before this use of chemicals took over the whole place.
Yeah.
What were the safe agronomic practices? Mulching, use of organic fertilizers, crop rotation, mixed farming,
Mm.
all those basic agronomical practices. They've sustained humanity for thousands and thousands of years.
Okay, so now, there's a growing concern with the population. Do you think the old ways, the old practice is sustainable? Going by, we're running into 500,000,000 as it is. So what would you recommend to the government to keep up with that, the growing population?
There's a current research that we can make available to you that the world's current food production will sustain a 14 billion population. So when we begin to hear that, and you see what you just said now is according to Thomas Malthus' theory of economics, 1798. that at a point, population will exceed the carrying capacity of of Earth resources. And that is not true. First of all, I will respond to that um, as a man of faith. There's something in the Holy Bible that says that all things are held in place by the word of his power. And it also says that as long as the earth exists, seed time and harvest shall never cease. If you look at Nigeria's landscape, if you've traveled the length and breadth of this country, I just said to you a few minutes ago that 84 million hectares, arable hectares of land are in this country. And actively, many of them are uncultivated. Even right now, where I am, if this was if we were on a video call, I could show you an expanse of thousands of hectares of land overlooking my window here, uncultivated. So we still have a long way to go in having effective and efficient agronomy in this country. So no matter our population, no matter how large our population grows to, we have the capacity
to
to
carry it.
sustain it. The narratives that are being projected by students of Thomas Malthus on population control to due to human resources, due to earth resources, they are all they are anti-science, they are
You know,
anti-God, and their lies.
yeah, okay, but the reason I raised that question is because we're not the first country with the population challenge. China had that challenge, most likely still has the challenge, but they came up with policies because it was a big concern, even as regards food security. And I think India is next in line as well. And repeatedly, you would agree that the population, as at when time began, maybe when Nigeria was founded, it's not even up to 10% of what we have now. So it's like, the government like recommending ways that this can be managed. But you hold that thought. Let's get on to your thoughts on President Tinubu's plan to transform Nigeria's livestock sector. What is the livestock sector really? Enlighten us, and then your thoughts on the president moves towards that sector.
Yeah, it's his the president's creation of a new Ministry of Livestock, which is still a branch of agriculture in itself, is laudable. But then again, I'm looking at the cost of doing business, because you have a whole minister there with all the permanent secretaries, with so many offices and all. So I think first of all, it increases the cost of business or cost of governance. It could have well just been a department under the Ministry of Agriculture. That's my first opinion of it. But then again, it underscores his need, or rather, it underscores his determination to focus on that industry. The rest of Africa has the rest of Africa is doing a lot in the livestock industry. And I mean, you hear data like for every one person in Chad, there are five cattle. So Chad is one of the biggest producers of cattle in the continent. Also, in a country like Namibia, there are more animals than human beings in a country like Namibia. So when you go there, you find out that meat, beef, is actually all over the place. In fact, you hear things like there was recently they had to give out zebras to people in a food poverty alleviation program. That's because the animals are in abundance. But in Nigeria, we haven't yet had, up until this administration, definite enforcement of policies that affect the livestock industry. Yes, the previous administration, of course, was a header himself, President Buhari,
Yeah.
and then we saw um, the cattle grazing all around the places, even in the central business district of the seat of power. You will see cows roaming the whole place, and that's because there was no proper policy framework that was being developed to ensure that that industry was properly managed, grown, and controlled. And we look forward to this Ministry of Livestock solving solving the farmer header crisis, which has been a major contribution to food insecurity in this country, where you have the livestock grazing on the farms of farmers and then resulting into farm
Conflict.
insecurity.
Yeah.
You know, herdsmen have also been a major part of the insecurity, as mentioned many times in the press. So, yes, we look forward to better policies in the livestock industry in Nigeria. We look forward to better development. We look forward to I think it underscores the president's desire to revamp that sector. But then
Mm.
again, I feel that it could have just all been done under still the Ministry of Agriculture because it's going to increase the cost of business or governance.
Okay. So now, what is the livestock sector about? Is it just cattle's? How does it work in that sector? And also, beyond just getting the cattle's off the road, the grazing and all, are there other challenges that you can identify with the sector that the ministry should work on?
Yeah, so one major area, one major area that the ministry needs to look into is the area of sicknesses. For instance, you have the popular bird flu and all the others, you know. So it's managing that, majorly managing the animal health and diseases, improving the breeds and genetic resources, you know, enhancing human husbandry and production systems, you know. So these are the things that the Ministry of Livestock Development is supposed to, you know, go into. So I mean, the area of animal health and disease is major, you know, because we've seen many times where there've been epidemics of diseases
Mm.
amongst animals, and um, they end up also getting into the human bodies. So yes, we look forward to this new ministry tackling these challenges, modernizing livestock marketing and trade, you know, setting up. They can even expand into setting up large. Like I remember, I was in Namibia recently, and I saw a very massive beef processing plant, and I learned it was owned by a Nigerian over there. So I mean, we can have beef processing plants that export beef around the country. And
Okay.
yeah, so these are the things that the Ministry of Livestock Development is supposed to look
Look
into,
into.
you know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I won't ask again what the sector is about, but now, how can investments like the recent $2.5 billion deal with a Brazil company signed by President Tinubu contribute to the growth of the livestock sector?
Yeah, like I said, it's the deal with the which was signed during the G20 Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro. You know, it's majorly for the is to drive the innovation and investment in fertilizer production, hybrid seed technology, and agriculture finance across all the local government areas in Nigeria.
Okay.
So, if you look at the brief, that's the brief we currently have so far about this deal. And it doesn't particularly have the livestock industry in mind. It doesn't particularly state it, except maybe we look into the fine
No,
print
it
of
does
the.
actually. He mentioned that himself. The
Oh, it was
president
mentioned.
mentioned, yeah, he mentioned that he's paying a lot
Okay,
of, he's giving that sector priority to alleviate poverty and hunger in Nigeria. So he
okay. Then again,
emphasized, yeah.
yes. Then again, it's of course, like I said. First of all, we need to. I have learned one thing. I have learned is, especially this year, is to look very carefully in these agreements being signed by the country. What is the long-term benefit? What's the short-term benefit? How does it affect the country? Because I have seen that. I've seen that the biggest weapons against any country are policies, international treaties and policies. So let's look at it. Let's look at it very carefully to know if it's highly beneficial to us. I haven't studied it personally. I just read about it just
Mm.
yesterday. But from the brief, which I already mentioned, like you also mentioned, the livestock development and also the fertilizer production, hybrid seed technology, and agricultural finance, across all 774 local government areas in the country. I'm really curious to see how it will play out because the country is a big place, and the state governments were not mentioned. It's a deal directly with the local governments, and when it comes to land in the states, of course, the state governments, the state governors, and the local governments play a major role in it. So if this is going to be administered at local government level with the various local government chairmen, then it's a development that I'll be very keen to monitor to see how it plays out and see how it impacts the local governments individually by itself.
Myself.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you in any way concerned about implementation, transparency as regards this initiative? Do you see it impacting the Nigerian economy in a positive way and food security?
Very concerned about the transparency because if you're dealing directly with several the local government chairman or as it is local government areas in the states in the country as a whole, you know um, like we said, we need to look at the instruments of implementation. What policies, what policies will be used to implement across the entire federation at the same time? We need to look very critically in it. I planned on speaking with the officials in the Ministry of Agriculture this week. I plan, I've sent messages to them already so that we can look very closely into it and then, of course, see how we can monitor the progress, participate in it, and ensure that they are well guided for effective implementation. I found out that citizens' participation in politics is very important towards steering the nation aright. Sometimes it takes the citizens to stand up, get involved in the process. And like I said earlier,
Yeah.
I'm always very careful with international interventions because
Okay.
somebody from outside will not come into your house to help you sweep. If you
Yeah.
don't know how to sweep your house, if you don't know how to clean your house, and you have to bring in outsiders, if your wristwatch gets missing or your items in your house get destroyed or get missing,
Yeah.
don't blame the outsider. Blame yourself for not being able to put your house in order. So
Okay.
this is actually where I am going to begin from when I begin engaging with the Ministry of Agriculture. We're going to look at the policies, we'll look at the treaty, we'll look very keenly into it to be sure that it's what we need or we don't need. And
We
if we
don't need.
find areas where they will affect Nigeria's food security, just like the GMOs are currently hurting our economy, hurting our food security systems, and the
Mm.
addendum chemicals.
Yeah.
If we find that, we'll begin advocating and escalating it immediately to the public and also
Okay.
to the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you.
All right, if you're listening to us, this is Spotlight. We're looking at food availability in the country. How can we get access to more food? That's what we're looking at, and some of the challenges, prospects, and possible solutions. We have Dr. Shegun with us. He's going over the agricultural sector with us this morning. So you can be a part of the conversation if you'd like to contribute. You call 0805 092 0927. That's 0805 092 0927 or 0705 890 4927. This is Spotlight right here. Okay, now what are some sustainable food practices that can improve food availability in the country right now?
There are sustainable agricultural practices that can
Yeah, that can improve. Yes.
okay. First is um,
Yeah.
mixed farming. Mixed farming helps the farmers maximize their land. Let me give you a very good example.
Okay.
If I have a maize farm right now, I
Mm.
have a maize farm. In between the ridges of the maize farm, you can actually plant a ground cover like watermelon. And this watermelon will reduce the it will reduce the growth of weeds because they are ground covers. And of course, the weeds are when the weeds are reduced, you have better performance on your farms because your plants will not compete with
The
weeds that
weeds.
require similar or plants that require similar nutrition, such
Okay.
as the weeds. So on a plot of land, for instance, you can have two crops growing at the same time. Unlike the GMO farming system, where you can only practice monocropping because when you spray your pesticide, the addendum pesticide that comes with the GMOs,
Mm-hmm.
those pesticides kill everything apart from the GMO crops. And also,
Yeah.
if you are having a plot of land, you would need 20% of that land for what is called refuge farming. So you would plant the organic seed on
Mm-hmm.
20% of your land and you would use 80% for your GMO seeds. So that 20% is the land area that the pests associated with your crop, they would go there and eat it. And then so that when they come to your GMO crop,
Yeah.
which will be resistant to the pest, it will be a deterrent, but of course that's also wasting. That means you're just going to be using 80% of your land for monocropping.
Okay.
And of course, these are not sustainable for agriculture. They are not sustainable also. Secondly, the use of organic regenerative seed, it drives down the cost of farming. For instance, if you want to farm with GMO or even hybrid seeds, you'd have to buy them from the market. Let me give you the instance of the cotton farmers in
Okay.
Nigeria. When the BT cotton seeds were launched,
Yeah.
they used to buy them at 15,000 naira per kg, and 4 kg was required for a hectare of land, and that's 60,000 naira. But currently, they are buying it at 55,000 naira per kg, and 4 kg is required, making 220,000 naira. And this does not even factor in the cost of the agrochemicals and the fertilizers mandatorily that goes with the seeds. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is you're driving the cost of production up, the cost of the farming up, and eventually when the thing is ready for
Mm-hmm.
harvest, it drives the cost of the produce up. And this is already affecting several of the smallholder farmers in the agricultural sector currently in Nigeria. There's a report on Business Day, 23rd of September,
Yeah.
to where they reported this in good detail. And also, that farming system is unsustainable because over time your land becomes useless. It becomes dead of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
The pesticides have killed the nematodes, killed the insects, killed everything that would have been naturally fixing the soil and ensuring it is rich. And
Okay.
eventually, without the chemical and the fertilizer, you cannot farm. So these things affect smallholder farmers who
Mm-hmm.
contribute 70%, 70 to 80% of the farming in the country. So when the
Okay.
cost of farming goes up and these new foreign agricultural practices becomes rife amongst our
Mm-hmm.
farmers, it will affect our food production, our crop production. So staying away from these practices and using practices like I mentioned earlier, such as
Mm-hmm.
mixed farming, crop rotation, things like that, it will improve your farm yield.
Okay. So, Now, let's talk about. I know you mentioned food distribution already, but now, what are some major challenges facing food distribution and access in the country? Um, Beyond the security challenge you mentioned, earlier I talked about middlemen. Does that play a part as regards the challenge with food distribution and also taxation of farmers? We've heard over time some farmers come on the program complain about being taxed when it comes to transporting goods. It's not even the road now, it's monies collected from them that at the end of the day the consumer will have to pay for it all. And so what are some food distribution challenges in the country you can identify?
The first is actually the transportation network, the quality of the roads. I mean, if you've been to the villages where many of these farms are actually situated, you will see how bad the roads are. The roads from the farm, the access roads to the highways,
Yeah.
they are really bad. I was in a village, like I mentioned recently in southern Kaduna, and driving into the farms was almost an impossible thing. Was almost impossible. The roads are really bad. So how would a farmer who has just harvested maybe 10 ton of maize, how is he going to get the
Yeah.
maize from about 20 hectares deep in the farm? How is he going to come out when there is no road?
Okay.
So the road network, the transportation network is one. Then sometimes due to the bad roads, you
Mm-hmm.
find out that the produce spends longer time in transit, and of course many of them start getting spoiled, and then they spoil before they get to the markets.
Okay.
That also underscores the need for cold storage, such that when they once they are harvested, they go into storage. The area of middlemen, yes, we need more middlemen in the agribusiness sector. We need more off-takers, people who would off-take and actually take to the market. You know, we are seeing areas where people off-take these days and destroy.
How do you mean?
Yes, they are currently happening
Off
where
take
people
and destroy.
off-take
How?
and destroy. They
Okay.
off-take and destroy to um, build the narrative that the food is scarce. Yes, it's happening. We've seen reports of that where
They'll hoard the
of
food.
taking foods are being destroyed. Not just in Nigeria, in several other countries around the world
So
where organic foods are under attack because really they are under attack, you
no,
know.
so let
So
me
we need more
understand
people
this. So what happens is they take the food and destroy it, and
and
then
destroy them.
we
Yes.
don't have access to it.
So people don't have access to it. I just even recently in Nigeria, maize farmers harvested their maize and more than 50 bags of maize. They were not stolen. They were destroyed on the farm. They were harvested and bagged and they were
Why?
burnt on the farm.
Why do they do this? What's the reason?
Oh, definitely, because you see, those organic maize, they are regenerative. We should know that we're in a food war. I don't know if I've said this many times to the people in government. We must realize that we're in a food war, and it is important that the government agencies begin to act decisively. The National Security Advisor and our security apparatus must stand up. If we have not studied the character of these seed companies in other countries, then we would say that these things are just they are not true. But if you now, Kimberly, if you take your time and go and research into the activities of the seed companies, the Monsantos and the rest of them, if you go take your time to go and
Yeah.
study their activities in other countries, you will see these things are being done. They bribe government officials to look away from policies. They offtake and destroy organic seeds to create demand for patented seeds, which eventually lead to food capitalism,
Or
food slavery.
is that just a business strategy for some middlemen? Do they want to
Oh,
create
but
scarcity for
it's a
demand?
business in capitalism. In capitalism, you must The capitalism enforces monopoly. So if that is going to happen, then you must take out the organic seeds, just like in South Africa at the moment. South Africa does not have organic seeds. They don't. It's in the very minimal, very few regenerative seeds. Most of their seeds in South Africa are supplied by the Sygentas, the DuPonts,
Yeah,
the
but
Santos.
I wanted to ask you that the Biotechnology Association of Nigeria, I think there's a society, the people that go over the GMOs and all, they have actually endorsed this, saying that it's safe for consumption and it's safe for farming. Do you think that maybe that's a result of corruption and bribery as well?
The question I would ask them is how did they determine that it is safe for consumption when they don't have ISO certified labs in the country? How did they how did they ascertain it is
Reach that,
safe?
yeah.
I attended the biosafety conference just a few weeks ago, and I heard for myself. I wasn't told. It was said that their laboratories are going to be ISO certified. So if your laboratories are going to be ISO certified, how were you able to certify
Yeah.
that the biotechnology is safe? How?
Okay.
Worst off, how were they able to develop? Because they said that the GMOs we have in Nigeria are developed in Nigeria. How were you able to develop it with the poor research infrastructures that we have in the country? Secondly, who funded the research? The funders are out there. We've seen them. We know them already.
Mm.
If you Google, just search it. No, just search on any search engine for who funded the telomerase program. You will see the list of all of them. They are the beneficiaries from big pharma, and they
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that are advocating for food capitalism around the world.
All right. So beyond access, availability, that has to do with the quantity. Now we also have to look at the because there were reports one time of how some countries were even rejecting it. So beyond just saying we have to plans to export, how do you think the government can address, or rather, how do you think the issue of quality of the produce can be addressed as well?
Yeah, if to address the issue of the food quality in Nigeria, which we've been banned from exporting, it's just by simply banning the use of um, pesticides, toxic pesticides, because that's the number one reason why our foods are being rejected because of the high use of pesticides. So when these foods are tested, when these foods are tested before importation,
Okay.
the countries find out that they have high quantities of pesticide in them and they reject them. So if Nigeria bans the use of toxic chemicals and we have to go back to organic regenerative farming, then we would have, because organic foods actually go for a premium right now. They're a premium around the world. So yes, we can go for a premium if we go natural.
We can go for a premium. How is that?
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah, because the organic food are actually more nutritious. If you go to the malls in the UK and even in America, you will see these very big red tomatoes,
Mm.
the GMO big GMO tomatoes, and they sell for half the price of their organic, smaller,
Tomatoes.
not as nice looking variants. You know,
Okay.
so yes, because the organic. It's what it is. That's direct from God,
Mm-hmm.
and they carry everything.
Yeah.
All the blessings of
Yeah.
God in food
Yeah.
is there.
Yeah.
But the GMOs, you don't know what has been removed from them. You don't know what you're eating because there's
Yeah.
no way to tell what you're eating is food.
Okay, because now you remember one time our rice had a lot of sand and stones and the rest of them in it. I think it has reduced now. There's been some progress with the Abakaliki rice, right? That's the Nigerian rice, and it takes like tons of washing of the rice, and some other produce. Some would say it's not internationally, it's not up to the standard internationally. So, but what I mean is, what should be how should that be brought to standard? what are your expectations of, and also what even is the role of the state government in this? Because when we hear agriculture, it's easy to think that it's entirely up to the federal government.
Yes, thank you. In the area of processing, that's purely um, that purely lies on the table of the agribusiness, whoever it is, whether it's public or private. You know, what is your processing? Are you processing according to proper standards? You know, if you process a bag of rice and you still have stones in it and all, you should look into your processing mill. That means something is wrong somewhere. You know, so that we can actually get it right if we have proper ISO certified, proper certified fabricated machines used as processing mills. You know, you find that you have best quality. It's not rocket science. It's happening all around, everywhere in the world. I know companies in Nigeria that have excellent processing mills that are as good as their foreign counterparts. There in
Okay.
Ugoja and made up many parts of the country. So those ones can easily be taken care of by having proper processing mills.
Okay.
Then in the area of the state government, so some state governments have investments in in agriculture. Some state governments are actually driving it. For instance, the Niger State governor, he's actively driving food production in his state. You have the Benue State governor. At least these two, I'm aware. I have first-hand experience of what they are doing.
With
The Benue State
agriculture.
governor is currently on several initiatives, driving seed multiplication, driving farming in the states, even the Cross River State. I'm speaking for states I am aware of,
You're aware
that
of,
I
yeah.
am interacting with them. The Cross River states, if you look at
So
the
has that
Cross
eased
River,
the lives of the people? Because it's beyond just pushing the agricultural projects. How is the living standard of the people as regards food there now? Are they feeling the benefits of it, the outcome of
yeah,
it?
it takes some time for them to, for the benefits to get to them. For instance, in Benue State, Benue is just trying to recover. More than 85% of their farmers were sent to IDP camps, you know, due to insecurities in the farms. Many of them had abandoned their farms and all. Then you have different NGOs infiltrating, asking them to forfeit their lands for climate action. So the land just goes barren,
Okay.
all those things. So that way, it has affected food production. And of course, when the farmers are not farming and they've all relocated to the southern part of Nigeria,
Mm.
driving taxis, driving Ubers, of course it will affect our food production, which I'm actually saying what is currently happening today, you know. So, but if state governments can have programs like the Cross River State, which I know has a Cross River Investment Promotion Bureau that is ready to allocate, they have millions of hectares of land they are ready to allocate to anyone who is ready to go back into farming. You
Okay,
know,
so a lot
they,
of people want to go into farming, but the problem now there's the issue of funding. So how can small scale farmers, how can, if I myself want to go into farming, it's not exactly cheap. If you want to do, because I think I know someone that was into this fish thing, and the feed is very expensive, and even with poultry the feed is very expensive. I think a crate of egg now self is about 7,500 naira as at yesterday. So now how can more Nigerians get into? Are there like organizations, or are there grants you're aware of that the government is giving? Are there support groups for intending farmers?
so I get very careful with grants. Like I said, I get very careful with grants and supports and all from organizations that you're not aware of, because many of those grants, even the African Development Bank, I was speaking to an official at the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture once, and he said that some of the grants that comes, the grants don't come as grants. They come as seeds and produce, seeds and chemicals. So you see in the news that AFDB is giving the Ministry of Agri $100 million grant. What they are not telling you is that it's only $5 million they may give them, and the remaining 95 million will be actually worth of chemicals and GMO seeds.
Oh, okay.
So that is how it works. it doesn't always come like in the form of money. So when you hear grants,
So
it
how
doesn't
can small
necessarily.
farmers start in the country?
So how farmers can go, like if you ask me, my recommendation to anyone is that you have to cut out of your luxuries.
What if
Take
there is
out
no
of your
luxury to
luxuries.
cut? What if there is no luxury to cut and you're just
Then
you're using what is
take it
there
like
to
you
want
would
to
have
start?
done. Take it like you would have. Like I said, when I was delivering a keynote once, lecture once, and I said to them, I said, you already have a house in the city and a house in the village. No need to build the second house. Or you want to buy an Uber car, a car to invest in car hailing. Why don't you rather go into agriculture? It's just like you would have invested in any other business as a small and medium scale businessman. It's just your capital, just like you would have done. So
No, but
let's
you
not
have to keep
always.
in mind, Dr. Shegun, that majority of Nigerians are living below the poverty line right now. And right now there is no middle class. That's what, everyone is saying at the moment. But if you're not going to speak for, I don't know, the part of the divide you're on clearly is that you can cut the luxury. But for someone now that does not have the luxury to cut, all you have is just your house and your mattress, and you're thinking of going into agriculture, or you're just going by the day, living hand to mouth. So how would that be possible? How is that obtainable?
I think that such a person should visit his state government, visit his state government of origin, and tap into the
Okay.
agricultural programs. I can assure you
Okay, go
that
back to your
most
village.
state governments.
Yeah.
I didn't put it that way.
No, but that's what it means to be put simply now. How would you if you go back to your
Yes,
that's going
just
back to your village?
go to your state of origin, and I am very certain that there is a family land somewhere
Mm-hmm.
that everybody can a plot or two start from, or you speak to your state, go to your local government, go to your state government.
Yeah.
Perhaps you will benefit from the 774 local government program
Yeah.
that Nigeria just signed with Brazil.
All right.
So,
Dr. Shego,
yeah,
thank you so much. In 30 seconds, your final words on how food availability and access can be improved in Nigeria today.
thank you.
Yeah, so your final thoughts in 30 seconds.
My final thoughts. Okay, my final thoughts are very simple. Everyone needs to be production conscious. That is it. When you are production conscious, the First Lady had a program. I think that's one of the most laudable projects by this administration in agriculture. A lot of people sneered at it, laughed at it, but I think that it's one of the best programs I've heard of,
Okay.
you know,
Mm.
promoting farming in every home. That
Warner
small
Radio,
space in
Super
your
92.
house. You can
Do
just
it. Farm with
plant
it.
tomatoes, pepper, okra, bitter leaf, scent leaf, ugu, ewedu, and the rest of that. And that
Mm.
takes out the
Yeah.
cost for your easy vegetables that you use.
All
You
right.
can plant ginger and co. So that's it.
That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Although we won't be eating only bitter leaf so that we won't be malnourished, but thank you very much. We appreciate you on the program, Dr. Shegun. So let's do our bits. That's what Dr. Shegun is saying. Get involved. Get involved in small farming. Do your bits and don't wicked your neighbor by carrying food and telling your neighbor to pay extra. I hear middlemen do that a lot in markets. All right. Don't impose unnecessary levies when you know that it comes back to you. Because imagine you're putting the levy and then you still have to pay extra for the food because you have to eat. But then, thank you so much. It's been Spotlight. We'll be back here tomorrow.